Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Welcome back to another episode of Connect with the Quran. I'm your host Najman Sari, and we'll be looking at Surah Yusuf, and we will listen to another passage of Surah Yusuf towards the tail end of it, and then inshallah we will again keep trying to recap. So, Bismillah.
رب قد آتيتني من الملك وعلمتني من تأويل الأحاديث فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة توفني مسلما وألحقني بالصالحين.
Sadaqallahul Azim. So that's a beautiful passage towards the tail end of the surah, and it's Ayah 101, if I'm not mistaken. And the ayah just before this talks about more or less the conclusion of the story where he's reunited with his family, the fulfillment of his dream occurs, of when he told his father in Surah 4, in Ayah 5 or 6, Dad, and yeah, Abati, I had this beautiful dream, and here what the dream was about the stars and the moons, or whatever it was about the constellation. And here the whole family is now bowing to him in Ayah, the one before the one we hear. This is 101, so it's 100. And the fulfillment of that, and how that's where the word Ya Latif comes, which we finished off with at last time, of the subtleness, of how the subtleness of the whole story. And this is the Rabbi, it's a dua that now Yusuf alayhi salam is making. And for me, what is so beautiful about this dua, and in the tafsir that I did, is that it's, O Rabb, Qad ataytani, you are the one who bestowed on me. And what did you bestow on me? You bestowed on me some power and some mulk to be over this. So look at the beauty of the ayah before is talking about people doing sajda to him. So it's the biggest accolade you've got. You've got your gold medal in Olympics or whatever. You know, it's the best possible achievement you could have got, supposedly, in dunya terms. And that's the highlight of the story. And yet, right there and then, he is calling out to Allah, you gave me something of your mulk. Yes, he was the minister, or whatever he is in that terms, of that he becomes the Aziz of in charge of things. And yet he immediately goes, Ya Allah, you gave me something. You gave me something. You taught me of interpretations of ahadith, of something of dreams, of how to interpret them. And so you are the Fatir al-Samawati wal Ard. You are the creator of the heavens and the earth. So look at the beautiful thing of taking it right back to Allah. And I loved it. And I'm just going to bring it back in dunya. How do we do it? I remember one child, once he had his metric done, he did work hard. And then, alhamdulillah, he got a few distinctions as well. And when he got the distinctions, and he said to his mother, he said, Mom, you know, it wasn't my doing. It was all by Allah's grace. And this is like a 16-year-old boy. And when I heard that, I was like, Allah in His wisdom has put, you know, if the parents are able to ingrain that in the child, then the child, his first victory or his first success story, coming through school and having your high school board exams done. And this is what he had to say, that it was by Allah's grace. So, and those again, going back to the idea of the children, you know, because we're just human beings, and as female, relationship is my big thing. You know, even if I'm a corporate working or something, it's all about human relationships. So the first port of call is obviously your young ones, because they are the ones we need to be nurturing and nourishing. So if we can give that kind of baseline to our kids of Iman and recognizing whatever you have is by Allah's decree. I'm just going to share how children extract from what you tell them. You know, it's all Allah's, it's not ours, it's by Allah. And so I'm just digressing, but it was like, you know, you tell the child, share it with your brother. Don't, just keep it with yourself or and you say, no, because it's Allah who gave it to you. It's not yours, And when you do that enough times, they come back. And when, you yell at them for having lost their lunchbox at school or have lost something, you say, what did you do with the lunchbox? What happened to your lunchbox? Or, I got that for you. Or where's your whatever you had given them? And then they come back and they tell you, Mom, but it wasn't mine, it was Allah's. They, for their convenience, have turned it around to say, well, it was no big deal. If I lost it, I lost it. And then you have to sort of calm down. So those are all things how you need to be on the ball of how to be with the children. The other thing, like I said, before you correct or criticize, connect with your child. The same thing is before, and I can't remember the others, but there are beautiful things about how you say that before you want them to be doing something, be the role model yourself. Be, inspire before you instruct them. Do this, do that. Show them that you are the busy doing those things. And I mean, I'm just flabbergasted now how young people, they're walking past, and there's somebody just dropped something now, whether it's a crisp packet or an empty something or whatever, so what they think, rubbish. And it's like, no, I'm not going to pick it up. Even if it's somebody's blooming something, pick it up and throw it in the bin. If it's a wrapper, if it's a something. And, and I think in the fitrah of a child, if you watch a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, if they drop something, they will pick it up. They'll pick it up, put it away or whatever. I mean, they will have this fitrah in them to know that they've dropped something and they need to pick it up. And a lot of people, I'm just amazed. It doesn't have to be that you're in a public place so you don't want to be unhygienic and you don't want to pick something up of somebody else, but have the basic courtesy to do those things. Another beautiful thing, these are basic courtesies you do. And how does it fit into in the story? It's about grooming. It's about grooming. And you see what needs to be groomed within your environment. Today, with all what we have, and we always talk about, things are so bad today. And, don't go down the horror story. Could there be a story more horrific than what Yusuf alayhi salam went through? Could there be one for a young child, for a father to be deprived of his child, not knowing whether he is not living anymore or living or what it is, and yet yearning for him and just turning to Allah for his huzn, his sadness. I only turn to Allah. So, those things you need to remember. And as well, I just wanted to come back and give you some more words that appear in the Quran, in this surah, is usba. Usba is what the brothers say. First, we are such a big group. Of course, we'll take care of our younger brother. He's not going to get lost. We are a usba. Later on, that term comes up twice again, if I'm not mistaken, again to do with the brothers. But in other words, majority rule, the fact that you think you have clout because you're a big group, and so that gives you essence, that gives you your comfort, your strength, your whatever. And at the end of the day, what is it? It's your iman that carries your day. The one Yusuf stayed steadfast. So use those with children too, whether we are being bullied at school, whether we are racially of a different extract and the whole majority is something else, and there's xenophobia against us, or there's this, or there's Islamophobia. You yourself can change it. Why are we worrying about what to change the society, or, we must go with banners, stand in front of this embassy and that embassy and do that. Change yourself. I love those quotes which say, the day your masjids are full at Fajr, and not in Ramadan, the day they're full at Fajr, then see the change. The day you see the lights of the Muslim homes, a candlelight or whatever, at the middle of the night, then see the change. And then, it's forget making announcements for what the world needs to do or how I need to change my society and put organizations in place. No, sort myself out. So the fact that he landed in prison for the sake of the community, of the organization, it was safer for him to be thrown in jail. Safer for who? Safer for the paraphernalia of the world, of their values. That's why they put the righteous one and the most righteous one of their place in jail. So, but that's Allah's way of keeping him safe there. So for us to be thinking of, and I loved just recently about where in whatever situation you are, think, why did Allah put you there? What is there in the learning for me? And what am I bringing an example, hopefully, to this whatever environment I'm in? if I'm in an environment of fitna, maybe if I'm the same voice, let me just act in a way that I can be an example. But there we'll just take a pause and take a break and look at for myself and all of us is our intentions of why are we coming to listen to these programs or to do these things. What is the change we need for ourselves and to connect with the Quran? We'll take a short ad break and then we'll be back. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. You're with Najman Sari and we're looking at Connect with the Quran through Surah Yusuf. So please, my deepest desire is that we can all just connect with the Quran for ourselves. So while we can take many notes, but the more we engage with it, the more we look at it for ourselves, that's how we will. So just to continue with the factors over time that have come up, relationships is a big thing. How you can use it, how I think you can use it for your young ones, how you can use it also for the elderly, of how Yusuf alayhi salam was with his father, how he said, Ya abati. It was just, in English they say, oh, my father, or even if they say, oh, my dear father, it's not, just, it lacks the beautiful, the emotional, the whole thing when you say, oh, mom, the whole love that comes in that, Ya abati, is, and then notice the slight difference the way the brothers call on their father. And in there, and because the conversation of the father of the sons with their father is repeated in the beginning, then at the end when they had to go to Egypt and then they came back and they found their money returned to them or their coupons or their bartered items returned and they said, now we can go back again. And they went then again and so on. The whole time their conversation with their father was with the subtleness, if you know the Arabic of the terms they use, you can extrapolate and in one of the explanations that I was listening, what was extrapolated, it was all slightly bordering on abusive language of how the brothers were. If you look at the English, you're not going to get to that. Maybe if one knows the Arabic, if one knows the background of what is used, then you can extrapolate that the behavior with the father, especially when you say, oh gosh, are you never going to forget him? Oh gosh, something else until you're old and this and that. So yes, in their words, it was all very not polite language with the father to the way they spoke. So take that and we have it of how we must lower our wings of humility with our parents and be good to them, kind, don't even say oof to them. This comes in Surah Bani Israel later on. But all that things back to relationship. If you want to look at back to relationships of what happens where he's working, where he's an employee in the palace of the Aziz and then his wife does what she does with him, can't you relate that to your corporate life, to the abuse? Yes, mostly it's the women who say that, we get the flag, we get with the manager, with this or whatever wrongdoing they do. If you're working in corporate or in any big society, it could be anywhere. So take his experience of working at the Aziz's house and what the women did and what the fancy woman, when there was a banquet and all of them. What does that all go? That reflects high society and the immorality in the high society. And that goes on in our days. That goes on here, everywhere in that social circle. And the fact that they had knives and that they cut their hands, that speaks of a very evolved society. They weren't sitting on the floor. They weren't, it was all very supposedly, just in mentioning the knives where it mentions, and if I'm not mistaken, check it out. Corpus Quran is a beautiful website. You can email me to ask for it. But when you go and you press on the word knife, it will tell you how many times it comes to the Quran, and I don't think it comes many more times other than only in this surah. The other term, again, sijin, prisoner, prison, his prison mates, it appears about 2 or 3 times, and that too only here in Surah Yusuf, if I'm not mistaken. I stand to be corrected, but I'm just hoping to give these things out to you, to want to catch on something and something to excite you, to want to go and look at the surah, go check it out, let me check, where is it, how is it, and so on. So I was just talking about what happened at the palace. Then the other beautiful things about how in Allah, in His wisdom, He separated one child from his father, from his beloved father, beloved son, how they were separated. This loss, coming back to the idea of Ya Latif, this one separation for 40 years, however many years it is, it's not in the Quran, we get it from secondary sources. This qasas, the message, that child being, I'm going to say kidnapped, being thrown in the well, taken to Egypt, being sold as a slave, landing in jail, and the dream he then interpreted, and then how he saved Egypt from the 7 years in the 7 good years he was able to store and put things in storage, the food storages, grain, and then in the 7 lean years, people were able to survive. And those who had to die died, but it wasn't that they died for the famine because it was taken care of. So again, the message of how you can anticipate the future if you know floods, the season of flooding is coming, flash floods are going to happen, this will happen. What precautions can you take beforehand? And so in him becoming the top person, the agriculture minister, whatever, how many lives of how many children were saved who otherwise might have drowned. So this again is something we extrapolate from Surah Yusuf from the newer explanations, newer mufassirs who take it. Those are the kind of things you can extrapolate from it. It doesn't say in the Quran, Allah did this because of this. He just says it's a latif, it's a story. And the beautiful way it stays fresh, the ever fresh tea or something, the leaves are ever fresh or whatever. The freshness of the story stays today because Allah's language, Allah's beautiful way of saying it in Arabic, in the most concise way, you now take it. The fact that I can relate it to a child's story doing high school metric. There's no mention of metric in the Quran. There's no mention of high school board exams or any such thing. But that is what you're able to take for you. Because if he can be saying this dua on sitting on the top seat, Ya Rab, Rabbi qad ataytani min al-mulki wal, that you gave me something of the mulk. And وَآتَيْتَنِي, تَوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيث, that you gave me some interpretation of the thing. And you are فَاطِرُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَنْتَ وَلِيَّ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ تَوَفَّنِي مُسْلِمًا وَالْحِقْنِي بِالصَّالِحِينَ. And you make my end with the Salihin. In his day, who was the most Salihin? But he's saying, when you take my spirit, when you take my soul, when I die, put me with the good guys. And subhanAllah, for somebody who is the best guy of his age, of his time, and he's still saying, put me with the good guys, with his forefather, with his great-grandfather, Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ishaq is his grandfather, and Ibrahim alayhi salam is his great-grandfather. So Yusuf alayhi salam is 4 generations. Yusuf alayhi salam's father, Yaqub, we have his name. Yaqub alayhi salam's father, Ishaq. Ishaq alayhi salam's father, Ibrahim. And they always mention Ismail and Ishaq together as the sons of Ibrahim. So he is the father of the nations, of the Jews, of the Christians, of the Muslims, Ibrahim alayhi salam. So all those Salihin, his reference to them comes up when he is in the worst position with the wife in the palace. And he says that he might have been derailed also had he not seen the Burhan. So the beautiful way of saying is like you're in the situation and then you just see a flashback or you see this, image, the trailer going by of all your forefathers who keep you back on track and you stay on track. So whatever it is, and his mention of his ancestry comes in twice as well. That, having good ancestry, having good thing, but that always stays if our 1 generation, 3 generation, we're able to stay with it, keep there, and pass it on. There's a beautiful saying, Allah knows, it's not a hadith, it's not, but they say that generally, the first generation works hard, the second benefits, but this makes life easier for the third generation to get it so easy that they lose the plot, and then the 4th generation is starting back on the bicycle and having to start again. Same with Iman. That the Iman, you can't sort of say, my great-grandfather, he was an alim, he was a mufti, he was this, he was that, and therefore we will. We lose people along the way. we lose people along the way, and it's an effort. So it's a great effort to keep Ibrahim alayhi salam's children on track, Ishaq alayhi salam, Ismail, Ishaq alayhi salam to have Yaqub alayhi salam. It's by Allah's decree also 100%. It's not that. But you need to also be making the effort, especially when you're out of your home base, because, we get complacent. And the beautiful thing is, whether you're within a Muslim country and you say your whole society is Muslim, relatively Muslim, it's culturally Muslim, but how they tend to derail, but the ones who also go overseas can derail unless the way in certain places the mosques were put in place, the halal systems were put in place, in a country like South Africa. And so many other things can take place. In Europe, they're trying, but it's an uphill battle constantly. So those are the kind of things that you can extrapolate so much from this surah. And go to authentic sources, go to authentic hadith. Don't just come, the out of the hat and pull out, oh, I think this could work here too. You can't do that. You have to stay authentic to the sources. You have to stay as authentic you can, whichever mufassir, whichever tafsir book you like to read, go to that. But when you're reading for yourself, take home lessons for yourself. If you read it at midnight, at the middle of the night, when everything is quiet, Allah will open your light too. That's why that beautiful surah, the dua we start with, Rabbi Shrah li Sadri, oh Allah, expand my path. So those are the kind of things that we would need to be looking at. It's a beautiful surah. It's an endless surah. You can do a whole series on it, but that's all where I'm going to leave it, in the hope that something I might have, kindled a wish in you to want to go and look at it for yourself. So I request you to pray for me, and I pray for you, all of you listeners, dear listeners, that we are able to find guidance in connecting with the Quran. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.